no gamble, no future. Season 7, Episode 5 is a high-energy, high-stakes night at the PokerGo studio that mixes brutal cash, game strategy with the kind of table talk and antics that make the show addictive. The episode opens with the crew, the scene deep stacks, $200 and $400, 800 blinds with a 400 big blind ante, and roughly 394 Ausen in play. You immediately feel the pressure. Players are big names who know each other well, and the banter hides both respect and the desire to rip chips. Andrew Robl and Justin Gavri are central to the early action, with Garrett Adelstein, Stanley Tang, Andrew Pacheco, Sean Madden, and newcomers like Andy Kim also contributing big moments. The tone is competitive, but it's also obvious everyone is having a blast, trying new sub-games like the Standup and the Squid Game Plaque Challenge to keep things spicy between massive pots. The episode's structure alternates between huge pots that change stack sizes and mini games that force hands and action. The opening hand segments give viewers immediate payoff. Robl and Gavri clash early, with Robl flopping a flush against Gavri's 2-pair, and Robl extracts another 20k through a well-timed snap jam scenario to win a pot worth roughly 181,000. That hand exemplifies the night. Deep, stacked poker, where texture and timing matter more than thin equity. Gavri takes some hits early, but the commentary teases him as maybe back, and you can see the arc of a comeback forming. Pockets, flops, and the decision whether to run it once or twice become recurring themes that affect both psychology and bankroll management across the table. The episode also leans into novelty with the stand-up game, a nerve-wracking format where players have to stand to represent survival and owe money to those who remain. It forces action and produces huge side consequences quickly. Players joke about folding just to do it for the first time, but the reality is the stand-up game creates massive amounts of action and tension, with multiple all-ins and tough decisions just to secure one win. The table then switches to the Squid Game Plaques, a cheeky homage to the Netflix show, where winners collect plaques and losers without a plaque, after 8 hands, must pay the plaque holders. That variant drives a different kind of aggression because it layers an extra cost onto losing a stretch of hands, and it's handled with the typical mix of seriousness and sarcasm the cast brings. Back at full tilt cash play, Stanley Tang and Justin Gavri stage one of the episode's most thrilling confrontations. Gavri flops a set of queens, but an ace on the turn and a 9 on the river open the door for Tang, who turns his king into a river shove to put massive pressure on Gavri. The moment is an all-timer from a broadcast perspective. Tang times a theatrical shove, the table simmers, and Gavri, after deep thought, calls and wins a pot north of 265 Zarzan. The call earns Gavri the show's GTO Wizard of the Day, which is shorthand for a high-level, difficult decision done correctly. This hand is a great study in pot control, blocker effects, and the art of putting an opponent on a precise value or bluff range. Tang's willingness to run big bluffs demonstrates his heavy approach, while Gavri's call shows discipline and a correct understanding of ranges in a river shove spot. One recurring motif in the episode is the decision to run the board once or twice when players are deep and equity swings matter. Running it twice appears a few times and becomes a mini plotline. It's theatrical. It prolongs the pain of variance, and it gives losing players a chance to catch up in incremental ways. Garrett Adelstein is on the wrong side of variance this episode more than once. He gets into several massive pots and walks away on the losing end of run it twice situations more than once. The imagery of him asking for 100 off my account after watching the second run is both comic and telling. Even elite players suffer brutal cold decks. The show uses those moments to remind viewers that poker is a mixture of skill and luck, and that sometimes the table just hates you, even when you make the right plays. The episode's big money moments don't stop there. Robl continues to run hot in repeated hands where rivers bend his way. His ability to keep taking down massive pots feeds into table momentum. When a player is running hot and confident, you can see others adjust, sometimes paying too much to catch a piece of glory. The psychology of recent results is on full display. Winners get louder, losers try to tilt into action, and the commentators dissect whether calls are made from a purely mathematical standpoint or one influenced by emotion. Robl's streak is wild to watch because it's not just about luck. It's about timing, aggression, and choosing the right spots to apply pressure when opponents are marginally capped or committed. Andrew Pacheco's presence brings another arc. He gets crushed in the Squid Game section, failing to collect plaques and facing an AK hit to his stack. His loss underscores how these novelty sub-games can bite, especially when they're structured to penalize dry runs. The squad laughs and ribs each other about the plaque printer, the cage for the plaque gilder, and the playful competitiveness that keeps a long cash session entertaining. Those lighter moments contrast the crushing reality of multi-$100,000 pots later in the episode. And the show balances both so the viewer experiences both the bravado and the cost. A landmark pot in the second half pits Tang against Garrett in what becomes the biggest pot of the night. A 366k monster where Tang's king finally stands against Garrett's 2 10s after 2 runs. The hand is brutal, deep, stacked, jammed in, and run twice. Tang emerges with at least half, and then the full pot after both runs. Viewers get a lesson in how deep stack dynamics make the marginal equity of small outs critical, and how having suits covered by your opponent can have your outs and change expectations. Garrett's season seems cursed this night. The commentators call him the victim, and the scene offers a sobering example of how even extremely good players can run into unthinkable variance. The commentators and table talk throughout the episode are worth highlighting because they add instructional color. Jeff Platt and Brent Hanks narrate technical points in accessible ways while players call out rudes, timing tells, and meta moves. The banter is playful and often instructional. They note when a player is being unreadable, when a jam is clearly a pressure play, and when a snap jam is meant to force a fold. That running commentary helps viewers who aren't grinders understand why someone might call a river shove or why limps and traps are deployed in specific contexts. It's a masterclass in blending entertainment with poker education without turning the show into a dry clinic. Toward the episode's end, the table tallies the night's winners and losers. Robl is up massively after the run of hot rivers. Gavri establishes himself after the set, calls showdown, and wins the GTO Wizard nod. Tang pockets at least one life-changing pot that proves a well-timed shove can work wonders. Garrett feels the sting but remains a fixture at the table, already planning his next move. And Pacheco eats an 8k loss from the Squid Game drama. The final feeling is that the session was a turning point. It changed relative stack sizes, player moods, and incentives for the next session. Those downstream effects are critical in cash games. Tonight's wins or losses practically dictate tomorrow's ranges, who sits in the hot seat, and what strategies players will employ while under pressure. From a strategy perspective, this episode offers several takeaways. First, deep, stacked poker rewards players who can navigate turn and river shove spots with precision. Players like Tang and Gavri show the value of aggression balanced against blockers and perceived ranges. Second, novelty formats like Standup and Squid inject variance, but also force players to demonstrate adaptive strategies quickly. If you don't like rapid fire decision making, they will cost you. Third, running it once versus running it twice is a tactical and psychological decision. A single run gives immediate variance resolution, while multiple runs dilute variance, but also stretch the suspense and can double the agony for the one who loses both. Finally, table momentum matters. When a player gets hot, disciplined opponents must adjust or risk making mathematically correct calls that nonetheless cost them a lot. Due to bad luck, the experts on the show constantly debate and explain those points so casual viewers walk away with better intuition. The ending of the episode wraps with a sense of both closure and anticipation. The hosts sum up key moments, award Gavri, the GTO Wizard of the Day, for a tough and correct call, and confirm who took the big hits and who walked away grinning. Robl's astonishing run becomes the night's headline. He seems unstoppable, and the table energy reflects that. But the episode closes on the pragmatic note that variance always resets. Winners today can be losers tomorrow, and the next episode will begin with shifted stacks and fresh grudges. The final shot is of players bantering, counting chips, and planning prop bets for the future. The show leaves you excited for the next session because the table chemistry and the stakes are now altered in interesting ways. For fans and new viewers, this episode is a great example of why No Gamble, No Future works as both entertainment and poker schooling. It shows real money pressure, creative side challenges, and honest analysis without losing the human element. A lot are the complaining and the occasional meltdown. If you're studying poker, rewatch the key hands, Robl's Snap Jam and River Miracles, Gavri's Set, Call, and Tang's River Shove for timing and range lessons. If you just want a fun watch, the Squid Game Plaques, the banter, and the massive pots provide all the drama you could ask for. Either way, Episode 5 proves once more that cash game poker brings one of a kind theater, unpredictable, instructive, and emotionally raw.